Hello everyone, my name is Valeria Agiska, and in this video we're going to talk about the erogenous zones inside a woman's vagina. Most likely you've already heard about the famous G-spot, that very spot everyone is trying to find, yet somehow nobody seems able to locate it. But the truth is, it does exist. In this video, I'll explain where it's located and how to find it. Besides the G-spot, there are several other zones as well. You could say there's almost half the alphabet in there. The K-spot, the A-spot, and others. We'll talk about those today too. And at the end, I'll share a practical method for awakening all of these zones. So make sure you watch this video until the very end. Let's get started. But before we begin, I have two important notes for you. First, be sure to leave a like on this video if you find it useful. It really means a lot to me. So, let's talk about a woman's erogenous zones inside the vagina. The good news is that women actually have quite a lot of erogenous zones, and they're not only located inside the vagina but all over the body. In fact, the skin is the largest and most important erogenous organ. That's why I encourage men not to focus exclusively on the internal erogenous zones. Of course, stimulating them can lead to powerful and intense orgasms. But before a woman can experience that kind of orgasm, she needs to be properly aroused and prepared, and that process happens through the stimulation of many different erogenous zones across the body. Since this video is specifically about vaginal erogenous zones, let's stay focused on the topic. First of all, what exactly is an erogenous zone? There's nothing magical or mysterious about it. An erogenous zone is simply an area with a high concentration of nerve endings. The G-spot, for example, is approximately 1.5 centimeters in size. Because of this concentration of nerve endings, proper stimulation can create arousal and potentially lead to orgasm. However, things aren't quite as simple as they may seem. Before this area can respond effectively, it often needs to be awakened. Why do so many women and men say, "I've tried finding the G-spot, but nothing happens"? The answer is simple. The zone is dormant. The brain doesn't recognize what's happening when it's stimulated, so it doesn't send the signals that trigger the release of pleasure hormones, which are responsible for creating feelings of arousal. Think about it this way. If someone breaks their arm and doesn't use it for 2 months, once the cast is removed, they have to relearn how to use it properly. The brain has partially weakened those neural connections. With the G-spot, it's even more complicated. Most people have never consciously stimulated it or worked on increasing its sensitivity. So why would the brain automatically know that stimulation in this area should create pleasure? It doesn't. That's why, just like any other erogenous zone, it needs to be awakened first. When a woman experiences pleasure but doesn't reach orgasm, it often means one of two things. Either she wasn't properly prepared for orgasm, or her erogenous zones haven't been awakened. That's why every woman should take responsibility for her own pleasure, and if a man wants to help with that process, that's great too. Now let's talk about preparation. Before these zones can be awakened, they need to be in an aroused state. If we compare it to a man, a penis needs to be erect before intercourse can happen. An erection is simply increased blood flow to a specific area. The same principle applies to female erogenous zones. They also require increased blood flow to the pelvic region. Yes, women experience erections too. The difference is that theirs are internal, so they aren't visible. Many people assume they don't exist, but they absolutely do. In fact, they're even more important than male erections. So if we're talking about finding the G-spot, the first step is proper arousal. A woman should move through the stages of arousal, lubrication, and reach the plateau phase. At this stage, her body is actively preparing for orgasm. After that comes orgasm itself, followed by the resolution phase, when blood flow gradually decreases. These stages are extremely important because increased blood flow causes the G-spot and other erogenous zones to become engorged and more sensitive. When this happens, the G-spot becomes much easier to locate. The same applies to other vaginal erogenous zones. That's why proper arousal comes first. For most women, reaching a fully aroused state takes around 10 to 15 minutes. This can involve different techniques, external and internal erotic massage, and other methods of stimulation. In my practical training, I explain exactly what should be done during those 10 to 15 minutes to help a woman reach a state of full arousal and maximize sensitivity in these zones. Because if penetration begins before a woman is properly aroused, there really isn't much being stimulated. The zones haven't become engorged yet. The G-spot isn't fully activated, and a man can continue thrusting for hours without achieving the desired effect. A woman's arousal doesn't come primarily from repetitive thrusting. It comes from proper preparation, foreplay, different types of massage, external and internal stimulation of the body. In my training, I demonstrate all of these techniques on a model. Watch it, learn it, and apply it with your partner. The results can be transformative. Instead of faking pleasure, she can begin experiencing genuine orgasms. When a woman is highly aroused and properly moves through the stages of sexual response, her erogenous zones become significantly more sensitive. At that point, penetration can effectively stimulate these areas. The G-spot is located on the front wall of the vagina, approximately 2 to 3 centimeters from the entrance. Then there's the K-spot, which is often described as the mirror image of the G-spot, and is located on the back wall of the vagina. The same principle applies here. Proper arousal increases blood flow, making the area easier to identify and more responsive. There is also the A-spot, located deeper inside near the cervix. Many women associate stimulation of this area with deep internal orgasms because it activates a large number of nerve endings. In addition, there is the P-spot, another deep zone that is often considered the counterpart to the A-spot. These are some of the most widely discussed vaginal erogenous zones known today. If you learn how to stimulate even a few of them correctly, especially the G-spot and K-spot, a woman can experience powerful vaginal orgasms. And contrary to popular belief, this doesn't require extremely deep penetration. What exactly is a vaginal orgasm? Simply put, it's an orgasm produced through stimulation of internal erogenous zones located inside the vagina. A clitoral orgasm, on the other hand, comes from stimulation of the clitoral glands, which is located just above the vaginal opening. The same principles apply to the clitoris. If you want a woman to experience a powerful clitoral orgasm, you shouldn't immediately start stimulating it just seconds after beginning foreplay. First, she needs to become properly aroused. Only then should you move on to oral stimulation or other techniques. Learning how to create arousal is the foundation of everything. Once you understand how to properly prepare a woman for orgasm, you'll have far fewer difficulties helping your partner become fully aroused. You'll be able to enhance sensitivity and create a much more pleasurable experience. If you'd like to learn exactly how to do this, check out my practical training. There you'll find step-by-step instructions for arousing a woman, awakening her erogenous zones, locating them more accurately, and stimulating them correctly. One of the biggest mistakes people make with the famous G-spot is using too much pressure or the wrong technique. Instead of pleasure, this can create discomfort or even pain. In some cases, it can actually reduce arousal. That's why proper technique matters. In my training, I explain different methods for stimulating the G-spot and other erogenous zones. Everything is demonstrated clearly using anatomical models and broken down step by step, so be sure to check it out. After studying these techniques, you'll significantly improve your skills as a lover and become much better equipped to satisfy your partner and help her experience genuine pleasure.